Going live now.
Okay, so we're like live, right? All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah. I'm here with Edie Eckman, and it is the first Wednesday of the month. So that means we have, of course, our monthly live with Edie, where we're going to answer all of your questions about teaching knit and crochet, as well as our certified instructors program. So welcome, Edie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to see you.
You too. So you might be like, who is this person who's hosting live? Well, my name is Sarah again. Usually you see Dee on here, but she isn't feeling well today. So I am going to be taking over. And we have some awesome questions for you today. Now, we are live on the Craft Yarn Council Facebook page, on Edie's Facebook page, and on the Knit Picks page. So if you do have any questions while we're live, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We'll try to get to them live. And if we don't, we'll go answer them in the comments later. But let's just go ahead and get right into it. So first question, I feel like this one's a decent, decently common question, but whether for knit or crochet, what is the difference between level 1 of the certified instructors program and level 2?
Right, that is a great question. So level 1 for both knit and crochet covers the basics of that craft. So for like knitting, it's cast on, knit, purl, some stitch patterns, understanding of gauge, and that sort of thing, as well as being able to teach those skills to beginners. Level 2 goes, and for crochet, it's going to be chain, single, double, half double, increases and decreases. I didn't say increases and decreases for knitting, but it's that too. I'm not naming everything, but so it's the basic skills that you need to make sure so you can teach beginning level knitters and crocheters. Level 2 goes a little bit beyond that. So it has more about finishing details, more about different types of stitches. Like for crochet, you're going to be doing more like with broomstick lace or hairpin lace, things like that are a little bit outside ordinary crochet, if you will. And for knitting, you're going to be doing like more lace patterns and things like that. And then the lesson planning that you do is for beyond beginners. So not absolute beginners, but more of an intermediate level lesson plan. For both knitting and crochet, part of level 2 is completing a finished sweater. And it's a baby sweater. It's just an itty bitty sweater, but that's kind of your chance to bring together all the things that you know and put them into this one project. So that's the difference.
And that actually kind of leads into the next question. And this is one, because so if you ever email our info email with questions, you're going to be talking to me, questions about the certified instructors program. So we get this, this question pretty often, but people will ask, and again, you kind of just covered it, but they want to know, like, how confident do I need to be in my skills? Like, how much do I need to know before I sign up for the program? Specifically, of course, level 1, because we do give you up to 30 days to basically let us know that you're like, okay, I feel like this isn't a good fit for me right now, and all that good stuff. So some people do sign up, and a lot of times it's, it won't work with their schedule timing wise, but some people realize like, oh, wait, I realize that I'm not at the place I want to be or need to be yet to feel ready to sign up for this program. So is there anything you'd add about like how knowledgeable, I guess, people need to be, or, what kind of level they need to be at before they should feel comfortable signing up?
Right. So I definitely don't say you have to have knit or crochet a certain amount of time, because there are people who have known how to knit for decades, but haven't moved very far along in their skills, while there are other people who learned to knit a month ago and already, their skill levels through the roof because they were really spending time on it. What I like to point out is the Certified Instructors Program for the Craft Yarn Council is not a learn to knit or learn to crochet class. That is not what this is about. It is about taking those skills and learning to teach others. So yes, you have to do swatches. You have to turn in work to your master teacher to sort of show your mastery of these things. But we're not really intending, like, to teach you those things. So I would say you don't have to know how to do everything, but for level one, you want to have those basics, cast on, knit, purl, and be really confident in them, not just I know how to knit, I know how to purl, but like I really know how to knit, I really know how to purl. Yes. But the other point of the program is, and the reason we have you do this work that shows understanding of a wide range of skills, is everybody learned to knit and crochet differently. Like they picked it up on their own, or they learned a little bit from this person or this person or this person. So we want to make sure everybody has that base knowledge. And one of the questions that I ask in a phone call with others, with my students, is, was there anything that was new to you? Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, I had somebody just the other day who's been knitting for years. Mm-hmm. And she did a great job on the knitting, the stitches were fine. She said she'd never done a long tail cast on. Well, wow. I thought that was a really basic skill, but it's one she had just kind of skipped over, and she was using a different cast on. So we're just trying to make sure that everybody has this sort of baseline skills, and we're filling in the gaps.
Filling in the gaps is a great point, because you can call our office, you can email us if you have questions. Especially a lot of people do have questions before they sign up, just to make sure they're understanding everything. And sometimes when I talk to people on the phone, that's something they mention. They're like, I've been crocheting my whole life, I've been knitting forever, so I feel like I'm pretty confident. And I do, of course I tell them, like, that's great, and I'm sure you're going to do wonderful, but I do always like to point that out. There may be some gaps in your knowledge, just depending on how you learned or who you learned from. And this course is just really great about filling those things in that maybe you didn't even realize there were other ways of doing a certain technique. And now you can know and have the confidence to teach all the different ways. And then you're not just teaching people the only way you're teaching them all the different ways, because for some things we know what might work for one person, another way to do it might work better for someone, whether it's how you hold the crochet hook or just various other things. So that's a great point, and thank you for going in depth on that, because it's a good question. Okay, so on to classes and promoting classes. What are some good ways that you think, or that you've seen, to promote classes and get people interested in signing up for your classes? And then what are some good ways that you can retain your students?
Okay, so in terms of promoting it, you might use different techniques depending on sort of where you're teaching. Are you teaching just virtually? Are you teaching at a community center or a library, or out of your home or in a store? So you're going to have some different ways of reaching people depending on your venue of where you actually are teaching. So social media is a good way. Word of mouth is excellent. Like, just tell everybody, tell everybody in your book club or whatever. They may not be interested, but they may know somebody who's interested. Have a place where the information, like whether you're handing out a flyer, but we're not necessarily together yet, right? Not everybody's meeting in person. Yeah. So you might want to have a web page, or you might want to have something on your social media where people can go to find the information. You may not want to hand out your phone number in public, but just some way that people can reach you and sign up or find out about it. So maybe tailor the message to the audience you're trying to reach where you are. Obviously, if you're teaching like at a community center, you're going to put up flyers, you're going to get put in their newsletter. Just say it as many different places as you can. Yeah. In terms of retaining students, you want every single student to feel successful. So if you come into my class and you've never crocheted before and you don't know which end of the hook to hold, we're going to set the expectations. Mm-hmm. Not that you're going to be making a sweater at the end of this 2-hour class, right? Mm-hmm. The expectation is going to be, maybe you're going to be able to chain and single crochet, and make a project that's not a single crochet scarf, because that's going to take forever. But maybe it's a coin purse or a coaster or something, so that they are successful you have set reasonable expectations, and then they are successful in meeting those. And if you find out that they're not going to make it and you thought they would for whatever reason, you just reframe that like, wow, you made half a coaster, and you can go home and finish it. So yay, right?
Now you have the skills to go home and finish it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So not, and not making those goals so far, like after 6 weeks, you'll have a scarf.
Yes.
No, like we want to be successful in little tiny chunks.
Yes. Yeah, because I was actually talking about this on a call earlier this morning, but knitting and crocheting, it's like any skill, you have to practice. So yeah, I agree. Setting up realistic expectations of what is actually going to be learned and then accomplished in the class is great, because if you don't set those expectations, people are probably going to be disappointed.
Right. And remember, they're there for fun. This is, you're an entertainer. Like, I don't know, what I do is entertainment. It's educational entertainment, but you have to be passionate and enthusiastic and share that with your students.
Absolutely. And that I'm going to kind of skip ahead to our last question because it's kind of applicable here, but do you recommend letting past students contact you for questions past the class? And I guess I'll just put a continuation of that, like what are the best ways to go about doing that?
Right. So that is going to be entirely up to you. It may be that you have the mental energy for that. It depends on how many students you've had. If you have, I don't know, 40 people in a class, not that you would have that many, you don't want them necessarily all contacting you all the time. You might want to set some expectations around that. If you were being paid for a class and you're teaching additional classes, let's say you're teaching crochet 1, beginners, but you also offer a crochet 2 class, you may want to encourage those students to take crochet 2, not that they can't ask you questions, but you don't want to just be on the hook for forever, maybe. Or it may be that you are so enthusiastic and you would love nothing better than to have all your past students contact you. That's absolutely fine too. That is totally up to you and what you can manage. But I would say set the expectations, like think through your own mind what you're willing to accept. And then if you do want them to contact you, how do you want them to contact you? Like if you don't want to get a random phone call at 11 o'clock on Sunday night, don't give them your phone number. Right. So, because people will call, they'll be working on something and they won't think of anything of picking up the phone call because they want to know right now. And that may not be the best time for you.
And that even made me think, it kind of, when I was in college, like a lot of our professors would have office hours, set office hours every week when you could come to their office, ask for help or ask a question about something you went over in class. So maybe that's something you have. Maybe you have like virtual office hours where if someone wants to speak to you on the phone, they can call between this and this time on these days, or they can text you or email you, or maybe you just make all questions just through email. Maybe you even set up like a dedicated email address just for questions. Like Edie said, it's totally up to you and like how you want to be best contacted and how you want people reaching out to you. I can say personally, I'm not good at answering questions over the phone. So if I were teaching, I would probably just be like, look, email me. And if they really wanted to talk on the phone, I'd be like, okay, let's set up a time. But again, that's totally up to you. It's just whatever your preference is.
Right. And I want to actually mention, now that you mention it, because I didn't even think of it when I was answering, I actually do that. I'm teaching a course right now where I have had office hours in between. Because they have some pretty intense homework. So between one Wednesday and another Wednesday, I have office hours on Monday afternoon. So I'm set up to ready to answer virtually questions. And I also have set up a monthly Ask Me Anything office hours where people can sign up with me for 25 minutes of one-on-one time. We get on Zoom and they can show me what they're working on, or say I'm having a problem, or I'm trying to figure out how to design this tutu or whatever. And we walk through it. And that's one of the ways I dealt with just like random questions from people that would really take me more thought. It's not just like,
Yeah.
is this a knit or a purl? It's like,
Yeah.
I need to be able to give you my full attention. Therefore, this is when I'm going to be available.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, because a lot of times the questions really are a little more drawn out, and you can't just be like yes or no or blah blah blah. It's like takes a little more than that. So that's really cool. So a lot of suggestions for you there. And again, it really does just come back down to whatever you're most comfortable with. So okay, so moving on. So we got a question from Nitpicks, and this is actually pretty similar to a question that we were already going to ask. So this person said, does the Craft Yarn Council have a way of qualifying for the 15 hours of teaching certification with online teaching of students? And a question that we were going to bring up was, I lost it for a second. So we were going to say, how do you complete the student teaching hours? Do you have to find students and locations on your own? So this person is saying specifically online teaching of students. So, what are the kind of ways that you can complete those teaching hours, and what are some strategies of actually going about finding students and places to teach and stuff like that?
Right. So since COVID, things changed, right? I mean, I feel like I've been saying that. I don't know why. No, but I shouldn't have to say that now, right?
Yeah.
So depending on where you are and what your comfort level with being with people is, because every area is different. Everybody's comfort level is different. You can get your teaching hours online. There are ways to effectively teach. I have been doing it like hours and hours a week of virtual instruction for the past 2 years. So I'm teaching online all the time. I've taught dozens, if not hundreds of people to crochet over the past couple of years.
Wow.
On Zoom. So it's awesome. Possible. So yes, you can absolutely get your teaching hours that way. I also want to point out that you don't have to teach a class. So it's not like you have to find 6 people in a classroom to teach. It can be one-on-one, and it can be somebody you live with.
Yeah.
And in the midst of the worst of the lockdowns, I know that there were a lot of spouses who learned to knit or crochet.
Yeah.
Voluntarily or involuntarily, right?
Yeah.
That these people were the Craft Yarn Council, the Certified Instructors Program students were looking for somebody to teach, and they were teaching whoever was living with them. So
it's like, we're doing this.
Yeah, you sit down here, you have nothing else to do. I'm going to show you how to crochet.
Yes.
So and there are benefits to having an unwilling student. You learn some stuff about teaching. It's also different teaching somebody you live with. But so there are many different ways you can get those 15 hours of teaching. It doesn't have to be a class. But if you are looking for a class, my suggestions are the same as they were pre-COVID, which is look for opportunities where there are groups of people. So like your community center, senior center, libraries are always looking for programming. Although I know our library, my local library, is not having meetings yet. But they might have virtual programming. So look for those places, schools, after school programs, Boys and Girls Club, YMCAs. I mean, the community centers like that are where church, where people are, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so I'll add to that, because people do often, again, when they're asking questions to figure out if they even want to or are ready to do the course, how do I do that? So like Edie said, it can be one-on-one, it can be more than one person. You could literally just be meeting a friend for coffee at a coffee shop or a bookstore. A lot of people probably do them in like the Starbucks at Barnes and Noble, and it can be a couple friends, one friend, it can be multiple friends. It can be like an actual official dedicated class. It's however you can get those 15 hours works. And then the way you actually log them is when you're signing up for the course, you will make an account on the Craft Yarn Council website. And so you'll be signed into that account. We basically just have a form. You fill out, when you taught, how long each time, what you taught, and how many people. As long as that adds up to 15, we essentially just kind of trust you that you are doing those hours. We just need you to get 15. If you get more, great, but at least those 15 hours, so that while you're going through, you actually have some experience. So that is a great question. I hope that was super helpful to everyone. So we have a couple more questions. So I'm going to jump to one at the end too and ask you this. So this is more of like a very specific question when you're actually teaching, but how can I help a crochet student that's struggling with keeping tension?
Okay, so without knowing what without being able to look and know what you mean by like where are they struggling to keep the tension, take a look at how they're holding their hook and how they're holding their yarn, and make sure that they're tensioning it through their fingers somewhere and not just like having it over their hand or something. Like and maybe offer other ways to tension it. So I don't have any yarn handy, but some people like to tension it through their fingers like this. Others like to wrap it around the pinky and go over.
That's what I
whatever.
do. Yeah.
So, or around their index finger. So have them practice with different ways of doing it. And also maybe even different ways of holding the hook, whether it's knife grip or pencil grip, or maybe a different hook itself, like a different style of hook. I know that's the driving hand, not the yarn holding hand, but that might also help. So it's really hard to just say in general, because you kind of have to look and see if you can identify what the problem is. If the person is too tight, this is one thing I will say though, a lot of times crocheters are just like they're digging in, you know, they're trying to make their stitches even. I always talk about relaxing your shoulders. Not your hands, but your shoulders. So if you're like this, like everything's going to be tight, but you can't relax your shoulders and not have your hands relax somewhat. So I can't, it's hard to answer that without actually specifically knowing what the tension issue is, but hopefully that would help.
And this person may have found this too, but like when I was a beginner crocheter, when I was first learning, I was just generally like my crochet was just really tight, and it was through practice and finding the best way of holding the yarn and tensioning it for me. And as time went on, I was able to kind of get to a better tension where it wasn't so tight. And like even sometimes it can be so tight, I've found when I'm just teaching people, like when we go to schools and stuff, it's hard to even get the hook through the stitch because it's so tight. But yeah, I feel like that often is something too that just comes with practice. You kind of are able to loosen it up. But that's a good point. I feel like so many people, these days we're all like so busy and probably stressed out. It's so easy to like tense up, but just being more relaxed.
Yeah, like you should be able to like crochet and roll your head at the same time. Because if you're too tense, like,
Yeah, it's just gonna make the learning process less enjoyable, probably too, being really so yes, that is a great point. Okay, so we have one more question. This is a kind of specific one, and I'll answer this, but it's a good one because people do ask. So this person said, I signed up for the program several years ago and never completed it. They said at the time there was no information about a time frame required to complete the program. So just to give some background on that, for each level, whether it's level crochet or level 1, and you have to pass level 1 before moving on to level 2, you have 6 months to complete your assignment. So that's the physical swatches you're making as well as all the written assignments, and you have up to 1 year to complete your student teaching hours. So that is the time frame that all students are required to adhere to. So this person said, will my original sign up for the program be honored, or should I sign up again, essentially? So we do, especially if it's been several years, you do have to sign up and pay again. So when you first sign up and receive your materials, from the day you receive the materials and can get started, we do give you up to 30 days to basically get your cost refunded and say, I decided I can't do it right now, whatever it is. We give you 30 days. So we definitely encourage you to use that month or so to look through and see everything that's going to be required of you and the time frame, and make sure that you are, as far as able to do everything that's going to be asked of you. Because if it's been like a year or more, if you just kind of never got around to it, you do have to sign up again. And that does mean paying again, because we do have costs involved on our end. Edie is a master teacher, so we of course have to pay her because she's doing a lot of awesome stuff to help you get through the program. So what I would say is take advantage of those 30 days that you have to back out of the course if it's just not, because some people do find like, oh, I do want to get certified, but right now, just the way their life is, they just don't really have the time for it. That's totally fine. That's why we give you those 30 days. So yeah, if you signed up a long time ago and you never finished, we will just need you to sign up and pay again, and just make sure that you're ready to go through the program this time.
And I will add, there are times when you're coming up on the 6 months and something has happened. Oh my gosh, people are in car wrecks and they have COVID and they have, and so if you have something that's preventing you from finishing, you can always write the office and say, I have, and on a case by case basis, they will extend it.
Absolutely correct. So yeah, email us or call us. You'll talk to me. I'll get you in touch with my colleague Cherie, who handles extension requests. We, especially as Edie mentioned with COVID, whether it's the person who signed up who had it and it kind of knocked them back for a bit, or some people even have to take care of family members that had COVID, or even just, you know, people who are sick. You know, obviously we understand that life happens. So yeah, if you're coming up, you can always email to ask how close you are to your 6-month deadline and we'll let you know when it's coming up. But yeah, we do handle the extensions on a case-by-case basis. So we will work with you to figure out a time frame. We try to make it a realistic one so that you don't, you know, have to request another one. But yeah, we definitely understand. Sometimes things happen and you're like, I completely intended to finish this, but life, you know, got in the way. So yeah, definitely request an extension from us and we're super understanding. But yeah, so that's kind of how that works. I don't think we have any other questions. I think we've gotten to all the questions in the comments too. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. Thank you, Edie, for being here with me today. It's always, you know, a joy to talk to you and talk about teaching knit and crochet.
Right.
If you're new here, we do this on the first Wednesday of every month at 12 p.m. Central Time. We have a form where you can submit questions. We usually will post that on our Facebook page and Instagram page. And there's a link in our bio on Instagram. So you can always be submitting questions there. And we like to always answer them here live. So with that, we will say adieu and we will see you next month. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye-bye. I had an